I'm David Allen, and this is the second in a series of videos about my new book, which is called The Living Vote. The proposals in the book represent a democratic evolution in the United Kingdom. And this video is an overview. So effectively, it's what it would look like if these proposals were to be implemented. Now, I've mentioned before, and I'll mention in every video really, that the way to get political change in the United Kingdom is through votes. It's not by creating new parties and standing in elections to win them, because that's impossible. But it is going to be by creating a party which will stand in an election for support. Now, I've set up a new party. It's currently in the process of registration. It's called the Fairer Voting Party, and we'll be standing in at least one constituency, which will be Folkestone and Hythe. That's a certain one, because I'll be standing in it. And I'll be offering people this alternative, the opportunity to vote for change in a constituency which is a foregone conclusion. So it's kind of a free shot, really, at voting for something else. Anyway, in later videos, I'll go through the details of the voting system, the benefits that it brings, not just broader representation. But today I just want to tell you what it will look like if the proposals were implemented. We will still have a parliament. At the moment, we have a general election, which is in fact 650 local elections. The winner of each of those local elections is awarded a seat in Parliament, and that's how it's made up at the moment. Under the proposals in the Living Vote, Parliament will be made up of about 3/4 of members who are party members, much the same as they are now. They're pretty much all party members now, because it's almost impossible to be elected to our UK Parliament as an independent. It has been achieved before, but only by about 3 or 4 people. Most MPs who declare themselves as being independent are only independent because they were elected for a political party, got kicked out or resigned for one reason or another, and aren't confident enough in their own ability to win an election to call a by-election. So they usually sit onto their seats until the end of the Parliament. But in my proposals, only 3/4 of the members of Parliament will be made up of party members. The remaining quarter will be made up of independent members of Parliament who will be elected specifically as independents. So how it will work when you go to vote is you turn up at the ballot paper with the ballot papers as you would normally do, but you'll have 2. One will be for party members, one will be for independents. The independents constituencies will overlap around about 4 of the party constituencies so that they match. So if you have 4 party constituencies, in each one of those you would have a separate ballot paper for the parties, but the ballot paper for the independents will be the same for those 4. There'll be around about 256 party constituencies and 64 independents constituencies, each of which will return 2 members of Parliament. Now, a couple of things here. In order to get a more proportional system, you just have to have more than 1 member of Parliament per constituency. In order to keep the numbers of MPs broadly the same, then each constituency needs to elect more than 1 member of Parliament, and they have to be larger. So that's pretty much what will happen. Party constituencies will be probably maybe 1 1/4 times the size they are now, or 2 1/4 times, double, just a bit more than double. And the independents constituencies will be whatever size they need to be to match the party constituencies that they overlap on. A part of the electoral system, which is I'll explain in a later video in the Living Vote, is that the size of constituencies is much less significant. Now, at the moment, we've just recently been through a boundary change on a number of constituencies. Some have disappeared, some have changed. because the government like to create the illusion of equality. Therefore, in order to do that, they think that each constituency needs to be about 70,000 votes, 70,000 electors, broadly the same size. That creates some very weird shaped constituencies in order to meet this criteria, but it's only an illusion. It doesn't actually make any difference to the power dynamics in Parliament, because all the power is held by the Prime Minister. Nobody else has any, regardless of who they are. And it creates a few very strange anomalies, which I'll talk about when I talk about the voting system itself. So, were this to be introduced, and let me explain again that the way to do that is through vote, by standing in constituents for support. In the next election, it might just be one constituency. In the following election, in 5 years' time, it might be 50 constituents. In the one after, it might be 600. But the weight of votes will force the government to concede a referendum. The precedent's already been set. They will do this because governments always win referendums, of course, except when they don't. But they have the upper hand all the way through. They have state money to spend on it. They have all the media outlets, all the newspapers. And make no mistake that our existing political class will oppose this kind of change vehemently. There's no opposition at the moment, of course, because nobody knows about it. We are still at the very beginning of what will be a longish journey. But it will be a journey that could deliver real change. And if that's what you want, then if you have the opportunity, you need to vote for it. Okay, let me just recap. A future Parliament, under the proposals in the Living Vote, would have around about a quarter of its membership as independent members and about 3/4 of its membership as party members. That means that the government, which will be the largest party or the party with the most votes, will form a minority government in Parliament as a whole. What that does, of course, is remove the dictatorial power which is highly focused on the Prime Minister at the moment. When the King has total power, those close to the King have their power levels elevated. Those who have the ear of people who are close to the King have their power levels elevated. And as such, they become a prime target for lobbyists, money, influence, because the rewards are great. If you can just get your wishes, what you want, what your company wants, through to the person that has all the power, you've got a much greater chance of achieving success. Now imagine that some of the King's power is moved elsewhere. He no longer has overall control. He has to defer to somebody else. Now, if that deference were to be to another single body, like another political party where all the power is similarly focused in the leader of the opposition in this case, then nothing would change, because the corruption and the influence would just move to the new power dynamic. However, when the power is removed and shared amongst 128 independent minds, independent people, then it is almost impossible to operate in the same manner. Now, I will talk in detail about the rules around independence, how they get elected, what role they have, what they are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. But suffice to say, at this stage, it makes it extremely difficult to coerce or bribe them. And in the beginning, of course, they are standing as independents, and they will be quizzed on that before you elect them. And I can say this, you'll know a great deal more about the independent members of Parliament than you ever know about the individuals that stand for political parties. Okay, so that's as far as I want to go to with today on that particular subject. The overview, what Parliament will look like, larger constituencies, 256 party constituencies, 64 independence constituencies, and in the next video I'll talk about how they get elected and what other benefits the electoral system will bring. Okay, for now though, please hit the subscribe button, that helps. Please give me a thumbs up, a like, and the notifications bell so you know when new videos go up. As I've said, this is the ground floor of something that could be huge. And if you think we need a better political system, I don't know of any other proposals anywhere that would make the kind of focus changes that are detailed in my book. It's important though that you understand what they are. These videos will help, but do get the book. You can read it in an afternoon. It's not huge, but it is very focused and it is very detailed and it is very pointed. Thank you for watching.